I'm live. Hello and welcome to Transcending Ascension. Today we're going to jump right back in, of course, into the Gospel of Thomas because it is one of the best ones. And I'm going to keep doing this throughout all the Gospels that you were kept from because the Catholics didn't want you to know the whole truth. It's a deep, dark plot that's been keeping us packed in for the last 2,000 years. The information Jesus came to tell us was information that was meant to enlighten us, and they were in an ascension point themselves during that time, and the powers that be knew it, and they created the religion first of Catholicism to box it all in, and later the Protestants broke out of it, but not really, because they broke out of the prison using the prison system. So they're still in the prison. So we're going to jump right in here on number 53. And let me just get my screen sharing going here so you can read along with me if you would like. Okay, so 53 here is: his disciples said to him, "Is circumcision useful or not?" He said to them, "If it were useful, their father would produce children already circumcised from their mother. Rather, the true circumcision in spirit has become profitable in every respect." So, circumcision of the spirit there could mean a bunch of different things that I'm not going to bother getting into because I would be making it up. So we're not going to discuss that one. But if you have any ideas what circumcision of the spirit, I've heard preachers and pastors and stuff say things, but circumcision of the spirit, we would never want to circumcise the spirit, is why I don't want to say anything about circumcising. You don't want to circumcise the spirit. You would want to circumcise the ego. You would want to circumcise the ego so that you can better utilize your spirit, because the ego stands in the way of your spirit. Because circumcision, to cut off, the boys had to be circumcised because that was a blood offering to their Satan god that they called Yahweh. That's the whole reason they had to do circumcisions, and why you weren't considered a Jew unless you did that, because they were all about blood magic. So, and I'm not judging anybody that got their kids circumcised. I had a big fight with my husband about that. And they are circumcised, but I got my way with other stuff because I'm very against medical interventions, with unnecessary medical interventions. Western medicine is great if you're hit by a bus or a car, or if you really need something, but their preventative measures are, I would hope they're not straight up evil, but they seem straight up evil because they are extremely misguided in the information that they put out there to the world, especially in the information they're putting out there into the world now. We are in a much different world, meaning our medicine needs to be different. I'm being very vague here, so you might not even understand what I'm talking about, because you have to be careful talking about such medical interventions that we'll just leave it there. Number 54. Jesus said, "Congratulations to the poor, for you belong, for to you belongs heaven's kingdom." Now, you don't have to be poor. This is one of those things where when they were talking back then, they were in a much different time. So it was, and it's not too much different here. And I've been on both spectrums of the money train. And yes, when you have more money, you do have a higher proclivity, not to evil, but shopaholicism, like constant consumerism, is not a good place to be. You do not want to be the person that just shops, because when you're the person that just shops, you're not in your soul. That's an ego place to be. That's not an aligned place. That's not the good place. That's not a place that's going to generate you soul energy, because this is one of the things I've really gotten into, like, more lately, is taking, it's why I stopped being a life coach. You need to consider your energy as a spiritual person, as a vital source. Just like your car needs gas to run, Your body needs that like magical energy, your actual energy, your quantum energy. Like it all comes in together in your energy body, and you need things to fuel it. So doing things like shopping are going to deplete you of that. And it's naturally going to make you, like when you eat sugar or any bad food, this is why we take care of ourselves. You're more likely to be like, ugh, I don't care. I don't want to. Ugh. And then you'll do more bad things. Like this is when I always say I was a bad person before. I consider myself a very bad person, but was I in a street gang? Was I any kind of a serious addict? No, but I did stupid things. Like I was a shopaholic and I was whiny about it, and I would eat bad food and then whine about it and then poor me. And what good are you to the world when you're just sitting around doing all these things that you know are going to not be good for you? Like shopping is a temporary thrill, a temporary yay, that later it's just gonna like ugh. And then especially if you get to the level that I used to be at, you next thing you know, this is when I got into minimalism, is you're looking around at your house, and then especially when they said the thing about credit cards, you're looking around your house and you're seeing all this stuff, but instead of bringing you happiness, you see the waste that it is. All that stuff is a huge waste. And to top it off, the majority of us in this world, myself included, I've gone bankrupt before. Like you're looking around and you're just seeing all this stuff that's sitting there on your credit card, that's sitting there weighing you down because you messed up. You like went and wasted all your money on a bunch of stuff you did not need. And now, not only did that affect you negatively at the time, it is now going to negatively affect you every single time that you see that stuff, whatever the stuff might be. This is why you really want to get to know thyself, because when you get to know thyself, you get to know the things that truly matter to you. Like simple things like my crystals back there. I don't go nuts buying them. They're usually not cheap, and if they are, they're probably fake. But there's something that when I buy, they decorate my house and they're crystals. So that's what I'll stick to now, but it's a more thought out. I still have someone else's logo on. There we go. That's more thought out than 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 just mindless shopping. I've said it before, I was a mall rat, and being a mall rat, that means you're a shopaholic. And just online shopping too, like it's a constant source. So back to our point, like here, poor people are gonna see the kingdom of heaven, but I disagree there. Oh, I'm disagreeing with Jesus, because being poor, it goes that opposite way as well, which I have never been that kind of poor. I have had no money, but I've never, I think there's just like, and I don't want to say class system, but there just is a difference in being poor, but still being a normal person that's intelligent versus being a poor person that's now addicted to crack or meth, or they're hitting the streets to make money, and they're doing crime to make the money. Like so we really, the good and the evil is not poor rich. The good and the evil is what you do within your poor rich, because there's lots of people that, and I hope I'm one of them now, if I was trusted with money now, God, I would do better with it. Like, and we're doing all right. We're middle class. We have 3 kids though. So it's like no more money for the self, which is fine. But it's like now I have so many things I would love to invest in and to push forward, to push the message out there, to bring more things, just having like equipment. I look all right now because it's a cloudy day, but I've tried getting cameras that just will not work with the computer. So it's stupid things like that that I see where money could go now to better advance my life. And if I could go back and take those tens of thousands of, probably up to $100,000 I've wasted in money, I'm not even joking, or more. I had a big problem, and stupid things like clothes. And I used to wear expensive makeup, or I used to go out a lot. I used to be very generous too. I used to buy my friends stuff all the time. I used to love buying stuff. We'd go out, and I once like we went to KTVing, I think it's called, this is a million years ago. And it was over $500 just for one night, where you karaoke in your own like room. It's a Korean thing, and they serve you drinks and stuff all night. So we would do like crazy things where it was very expensive, and I was very quick to be the one to pay. So that's my own doing. Like we once went, and I was always the one that would pay for the hotel rooms and stuff like that, where my friends were much more responsible with their money. And then I would grow bitter and resentment later when all those credit cards maxed out and now I had no money. Well, then I was like, no, you guys made me go poor. No, they didn't. I did that to myself. And I don't do that anymore. I'm not, well, it's my husband's the main breadwinner now. So I still will, I'll still be the generous one, but in a more heart-centered, not wasting money way, which is where we need to always be going from the heart center. And that's the answer right there. That's your answer. Rich, poor, off the table, because it can go either way. You can be evil on both sides of the spectrum. I think we've learned, like, conservative, liberal, they're both evil, even though like in any said country, if a certain person doesn't look that bad right now, that person might be fine. But regardless, the whole two political system is not fine. Not fine at all. And wait till that person you think is fine, wait till they actually get in power, and then ask and see if they're still just fine, because there's a certain something behind the scenes that's going to change that. So regardless of politics or whatever, rich, poor, duality is not where we're going to find peace and balance. Duality exists so that we can exist. That pull of negative and positive is how physical material manifests. So that is always going to exist. What we need to do is up-level ourselves inside ascension, inside like enlightenment, in our own evolution, to be able to feel and navigate through said darkness, but not step inside of it. Because that darkness, and I don't know how it's going to look in the future, but we can already see 2,000 years ago that the darkness is way less. All those scary chapters that I don't know why people take seriously in the Bible about if your wife cheats, kill her. There's one section of Deuteronomy. If you're in a fight with a man and that man's about to kill you, and your wife grabs the assaulter by the private parts, you're to chop off her arm. And it's like, why is that in there? They were so messed up. And that one's not 2,000 years ago, because that'd be Moses's time. So that's like, some say 3,400 years ago, which puts Moses not that much before Jesus, because those dates vary. But if it's 3,400 years ago, that's a lot more recent than I thought, which is just weird, because there's also rumors of him being Thoth. And it's like, Thoth was here that recently. That's cool. That's very cool. So it's like, almost like, is he still here then? And who is he? Or is he a bunch of people? Or is he just watching? Or was he never real to begin with? And he's just an energy unit, like most of those things end up being. Next. 55. Jesus said, whoever does not hate father and mother cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not hate brothers and sisters and carry the cross as I do will not be worthy of me. Well, then I'm not worthy of Jesus, because I tried that one as well. But what I think it is that Buddhist detachmentism, where you don't, and I used to, because we're all raised atheists, as I say this all the time. So I used to get stuck on waking them up to God, and they all thought I was being a Christian Bible thumper. And I'm like, oh my God, like, you don't understand. And I get it. I'm here quoting Jesus, but like, that's because Jesus is bigger than the Bible. Jesus is not the Bible. The Bible is the prison that they put him in. Jesus is the biggest teacher we've ever had, with the most information that we actually have from said teacher. Buddha could have been just as good, but he didn't write anything down, and nobody did for 200 years after he was gone. Now, I do say that a lot, but because it's like, if we were to change a timeline, Buddha writes stuff down, because you might have had better things to say. You know, your religion, and there was sects of Buddhism that got violent. There was Buddhist sects that did kill people and had their own mini little crusades. Very mini, though, compared to the Christians, because overall Buddhism did not take on that light. They did split up into sects too. And some stay more traditional than others. There's even different sects of Zen, because I'm mostly Zen, but more Tibetan Zen, because then all of Japan basically took on Zen. But then they kind of made it their own. So there's like Japanese Zen because they've had it for probably over 1,000 years, a couple thousand years. And then you have the Tibetan Zen, which more I would say, but it is original to what Buddha was trying to say. But you have to study all the different sects to kind of get a feel for it. And obviously, detachment's key, where it's just where we come in here with the siblings. So if you can stay detached from the opinions of your family onto yourself and live your God-given truth regardless, you can still love them. I'm going to go ahead and disagree because we can disagree with people, any energy source you're getting information from, you can disagree because love is an energy and so many different variations can be done in love. Like I once heard it said that and this might actually be the book of Raw, you should never let someone do evil onto you because if you let them do evil onto you, you're now doing evil and you're letting that person down. So if you're in war and that person's coming to kill you, you actually should kill them first because now you've stopped them from killing you. So now they don't have that karma of killing you. And I don't know if your karma is left for killing them. I can't remember. But you've done a great deed, a holy deed by killing them first because you stopped them from killing you. And killing a person is horrible. And that's another thing the original Bible is filled with. Oh, kill them if they do this, kill them if they do that, kill them if no, you don't kill someone for like offending you or stealing your oxen. Oh no, you stole my oxen, you must die. No, you must not. You must not die for that. That's insane. See, this is where a Buddhist would be vastly different. They'd be like, oh, you want my oxen? Okay, good. Here's the other one too. Like detachment, give it away. And Jesus would say, I'm pretty sure Jesus was a Buddhist. Jesus would say that as well as the Taoist and all the very vital, even like I said before, Scotland. And there's some serious magic in Scotland, if that's a true one. Okay. Jesus said, whoever has come to know the world has discovered a carcass. And whoever has discovered a carcass of that person, the world is not worthy. So whoever has come to know the world has come to know the carcass. So that's all ego talk right there. Carcass, dead, doesn't matter. Ego. Doesn't matter because what the ego wants is never grounded in soul. Because again, that's one of those separation things. It's part of our own internal duality is the separation of ego and soul. So know that like your ego is not evil on purpose, but your ego is meant to be the separator. You and like God wants to be separated. Not fully anymore. They did want that, but in the 90s we achieved it. And now the game, because a law of rhythm, okay, so he wanted to come to mass separation. He did, like that was check. And now we're on the way back up. But God still does want to live in semi-separation. So we do need to learn to be an individual. This is why the age of Aquarius is perfect for this, because the age of Aquarius is the age of the self, but also the age of spirituality, the age of enlightenment, the age of ascension, the age of awakening, and the age of technical growth. So that's something we're going to have to monitor there on the side. That's not going to go away. We're not going to reach a timeline where that's not there. I mean, I'm not, because that's just the way my brain is projecting reality. And I've thought about this deeply. I don't want a different future. I don't want a brain chip. I don't want to, well, you know what is what I don't want to be disconnected from my soul. I don't want to do anything that's going to disconnect me from my soul. And a lot of people said the brain chip will. And that's one of those things, like if you were to go through a man-made teleporting machine, you would never know for sure if you died. We would need so many people to do it first and then ask their souls afterwards, did you die? Because the brain chip will be one of those things where a bunch of people will need to get it done first, and we'll just need to believe them. Like, are you still attached to your soul? Can you still meditate and feel your God spark come alive? Because if we can have a brain chip and still be attached to our soul, is it that bad? But I'm all against EMFs. Lol. I shut everything off at night, like in Wi-Fi, usually if I remember. I'm not too tired and lazy, but like I definitely always shut off the cell phones, shut them right off, not just airplane mode, shut them right off. And then if you plug them in, check if they turned back on, because they will. And then shutting off the Wi-Fi, just bare bones alone, you'll get a much better sleep. Like you will sleep more clearly. That stuff interferes with us. So if you had a brain chip, you might never have a restful day in your life because you would literally be beaming cell phone signals. What are you going to change your SIM card? Boop. Or your Wi-Fi say, oh, I'm not going to need Wi-Fi. Like, how's that going to look? Probably not going to be that successful in our lifetime unless they speed up. Sound healing is already a thing. So you can already heal yourself with sound. There's many, many, many technologies coming out with it, but you can just simply go on Apple Music and play one of the frequencies there. I can't say the word. I can never say the word. It starts with an S and it's like Italian and big. And that's all those frequencies. So like your 432 and then all the way up, matching each chakra on the way up. So those already exist. And then they actually have clinics which will heal you. But eventually we're going to get like those chambers that heal you, which they invented in the early 1900s and then made them illegal. It utilizes this. Again, I'm too tired. I haven't had any coffee this morning. Oregon. So it's like an Oregon machine. Those already exist. So they can come back out. It's where you utilize metal and crystals and put them together and they do magical things. I have it all over. They have machines of those that can heal us. So anyway, so we have it within us to live to at least 150 years now, but definitely by the time I'm approaching that age. So we'll have more time to play with, hopefully. So I'm not even technically against the idea of a brain chip. I'm not even against any technology. I'm just against separation of the soul. So whenever I see something that is technology that's away from the soul, like once upon a time, a couple thousand years ago, and they even tried making America like that. And then the evil Americans saw what was happening and tore it all down. Look into your own history, Americas. You had all these beautiful buildings built, especially in Florida. There was one in Chicago. There was a few other places, and they were just stunning, things you would see in Greece or Italy. They were amazing. And then I think the founders were like, and this is the 1800s, so actually the founders were long dead, so it's not the founders' fault. These buildings existed in the times of pictures. Pictures are taken of them, and this could be a conspiracy, it could be crock. But I buy it. I believe it, of the West and what the West does. Have you seen England? England has no excuse to look so sad and shabby. They have those row houses where they're all identical. You did that on purpose to keep the poor people separated from their soul. And they're doing it here now, making all these stupid, almost $1 million houses. Like we're talking high 600,000s, high 800,000s, and they're bragging that that's a deal. And they look identical one after the other. So maybe one of them would have looked cool. You took one of those. Yeah, it probably does look kind of cool. But now you put it beside, and they're all very square, which I watched a documentary on that many years ago, but I still remember it. And it wasn't actually technically a spiritual one, but it was an evolutionary biological one, which can be spiritual. So we see, and we like to see in rectangles because it reminds us of when we were lizards, and that's how we see things and think root chakra. That's how we see things. And I'm noticing they're building these houses very square, all those modern houses with very rudimentary colors like orange and brown. And I don't know if they think it looks cool. The 80s did a lot of brown too. It was not cool. And the 80s were a dark time. So they know, I'm pretty sure they know what they're doing. And I'm pretty sure it's malevolent. So that's when I'm against technology, because it takes us away from the soul. But if we can have as much technology as possible, but for it to be of the soul, something that's going to raise us up faster, I am all for alleviating the suffering, which is the whole point of Buddhism to begin with, was to alleviate suffering. And diving into your own pain, like I do now, is a spiritual way of alleviating suffering. But if we can actually just remove it, I'm all for that, but without any soul separation at all. So we always need to be monitoring that and being like little scientists. Like even on my phone, like I do most of my work on my phone, or here now I'm on the computer. That's all technology, but I always have to check in with myself. And am I still doing this from a soul-led position? Like I spend a lot of time on Twitter now, which is pretty new for me. But oh man, I was missing like a platform here to just, because I love writing, and I would write in my very fancy camel leather journal, and literally would be like, dream of the day someone will find my writings when I'm dead and I'll be like so amazingly wise. But like now I have Twitter technology and I can just go and write and comment and just get this stuff out of me. Like it's like it creates more spirituality by putting out my spiritual ideas. the divine comes and just it fills you back up, like we were talking earlier. And the guy James True, which James True is cool. He's says a lot of dark things, but he also says revolutionary things. And one thing is calling our energy calories. And we need to think of our divine energy as our divine calories, because when we run out of those calories, we run out of energy. And now we're no longer being able to be as spiritual. We're no longer any use to the world. And we're going to fall back into old negative patterns because of it. So we always want to be monitoring our calories of energy and keeping them safe. So if you're on Twitter and it feels enlightening, great. If you're on Twitter and it starts to feel draining and like you're just doing it because it's a habit, and that's when I'll get off. That's when I'll be like, okay, and I'll walk away for however long it takes to bring back that juice of energy. Okay, here we go. Next we have 57. Jesus said the Father's kingdom is like a person who has good seed. His enemy came during the night and sowed weeds among the good seed. The person did not let the workers pull up the weeds, but said to them, "No, otherwise you might go to pull up the weeds and pull up the wheat along with them. For on the day of the harvest, the weeds will be conspicuous and will be pulled up and burned." So what that is actually kind of referring to almost is like this rapture people think is going to happen, which is happening right now, but it's happening in a very human, very slow way. And like I started saying at the beginning of the episode, it's the same thing was happening in that original Jesus time, before Jesus and after Jesus. And so one of the theories of Jesus is he's not one person. Those apostles are a group that is Jesus. They are this united, enlightened group that that they were the ones spreading the word. So there was a bunch of Jesuses, and we even know his apostles went on to do miracles. So either way, it doesn't matter, because that Jesus energy is what enlightened the world at that point. And it was off the charts. People were rising and rising and rising, and the Roman Empire couldn't have that. And the Emperor Constantine saw this, and there's rumors his mother was a Christian and he liked Christianity. Rumor, that's the story they put out. That's what they say. And he never became a Christian himself, but he did that whole council and boxed in Christianity, not allowing the truth of it to be real anymore. So they kind of stopped the Enlightenment period. And the words of Jesus still had a high impact, and society has massively changed in 2,000 years. So it was still a good thing, but we're at that point again. We're at that point again. So the weeds are falling away. So we're being handed choice points here, like constant things getting put into us, and just certain things like choice points of choosing to comply to ridiculous rules and stuff. All these choice points are where the weeds are going to be removed, because it's going to be obvious who is not on the enlightened path. And I don't know about you, but I've seen and had multiple family members at this point check out, exit the earth, leave. So they said about the rapture and how the good would be, it's actually going to be the one. And then it's not like they're evil, they're just not ready. Like, as we evolve, they know for a fact, thousands of years ago, well, for as much of a fact as that can be, we used to only see black and white ourselves. And then eventually they see that we saw red, and then the red root chakra. And then I bet you any money the colors grew from there, and they're going to keep growing, because we have probably infinity chakras all the way up, all the way to the albeit almighty God itself. That is the all of the universe. So we're always going to keep increasing in colors. And the more you notice that you see more colors, because just since being a child, new colors exist that didn't used to exist. Certain things like the shades of coral and teal and all that, which you could have found, they say were always in the ocean and stuff, but it's like, were they, or are they getting invented? And more colors are coming out. Look at the clothes they used to wear in the 1800s versus now. So this colors is just one of the ways you can literally see evolution, enlightenment, ascension. It's happening before our very eyes. And as that happens, there'll be people that are still just not ready to live in that expanded world, because the more our energy expands in the earth, the more our energy bodies and stuff become more sensitive, so that you don't survive. And it's funny, because I just did that podcast again with Stephen from BG Cast, and he mentioned that he feels things viscerally because he's a Taurus. Funny enough, my mother and my father-in-law that passed were Tauruses, both of them born on the same day. So that's some kind of synchronicity, and died within the same year. And they're both Tauruses. So that energy, so it might affect everybody, but maybe the Tauruses get it first, because as that energy creates more and more and more, it's going to want to remove your darkness. And neither of these people were bad people. They were both good people, but Tauruses are the bull. They're stubborn. They're people that probably didn't want to change their way of thinking. They didn't want to grow with what was happening with the world. Things are changing very fastly, and a lot of people can't handle it. So those weeds that Jesus speaks of, they are going to get pulled up and removed. But that's our own choosing, right? If you are here and you are wanting to enlighten, don't worry, you're not one of them. They're going to be the people that they're going to be older too, probably. Like, I mean, my mom was 59 and his dad was 74. So there's a big age gap there. So it's but they're still, I mean, 55, or what is it, 59 is not that old, but older. So be careful. If you know people, you have to warn them, but you also have to just let them live their own path, because I tried. You cannot force people to awaken if they don't want to. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. So 58, Jesus said, "Congratulations to the person who has toiled and has found life." Well, that pretty much is me. I've been nothing but a toiler my whole life. And it's just that constant work, that constant journey, that constant overcoming of subconscious raising. Because even if your parents tried their best, they probably still made a lot of mistakes, because, like we were saying, we were boxed into an evil world. And my parents saw the hypocrisy of Christianity, but that made them atheist. And so we were raised atheists, which I don't know if that's any better, but it brought me to where I am now, because I was able to be raised without any kind of dogma whatsoever, except the dogma of, we're realists here. If it's not realistic, it's not real. And it's just, but it made me very analytical. It made me very good. So I didn't step into the new age world as an instant wooer. I never believed anything unless I read the scientific evidence, including things like crystals, which I love. They have scientific evidence backing them up. Oregon, which I was showing you guys before, has tons of scientific evidence backing it up. Like all of this stuff that's coming out, sound healing, which we were talking about earlier, has scientific evidence backing it up. So that is what has made me kind of a very unique position to be in, because I don't come from a position where God has always existed. I existed for a very long time where, oh, it wasn't real. But guess what? I can tell you right now, living within God, it's more true. It's more real. My life has more validity. My life exists at a higher place, and it's grounded in more of reality, funny enough, which you'd think is silly, but it's true. It's very, very true. And not to in any way say that I wish my mom was still alive, put it that way. But my dad is starting to wake up now a little bit. I'm getting through to him. He's a Scorpio, so he's more likely to buy into magic. So we'll see. I'll report back if I can get him. But I've already gotten him saying, "Oh yeah, my mother went to church and she made us go to Sunday school." I didn't even know he used to go to Sunday school. So I'm already hearing things I didn't used to know. Oh yeah, I used to blah blah blah. And it's like, "Oh, really? Tell me more, Dad, about this God you knew." And it's so we're getting there. But teach their own. They can believe in whatever kind of spirituality they want to believe in. My goal is just to attach people to their soul, which you feel it in here. And I know we have the third eye chakra, which you can see visions of God. And there's a seat in there, like, what's it called? The golden chariot thing. It's in there with the wings. It doesn't matter. That thing Moses and them carried around, that's in your brain, and the pineal gland. So that's very vital. But the heart is where we're all going to access it all the time. You don't need to do anything fancy. You do need to start meditating and finding stillness and balance, but it's in there. There's an actual God portal in there. It's the most powerful one. And then you also have one in the guts. The guts is your intuition. And that's just where you want to clean out, especially your sacral chakra and all that stuff, which that's the really messy, not fun stuff to deal with. That's the childhood trauma or whatever, past life stuff you've done wrong, which in your past lives, you've probably done a lot wrong. Because again, like we were saying earlier, times used to be very bad. Just a couple 100 years ago, I tell my daughter and she's like, what? because when she, oh, boo-hoo, and I'm like, 200 years ago, like, yeah, like just 200 years ago, just 100 years ago, things were shockingly bad. You were allowed to beat your wife until like the 80s or something, when they finally went and took that out. Not even in all places. Like, you were still allowed. And or yeah, there's so many laws still in there now that would shock you. Because in the olden days, things were really weird and really bad. So good thing some of us are toiling away to find the life. 59. Jesus said, look to the living one as long as you live. Otherwise, you might die. And then try to see the living one, and you will be unable to see. So the living one, that's right here. We're led right into that. The living one. Because when you are only in the ego, it is like you're dead. Like, I talk about how I used to be extremely suicidal. Well, yeah, because when you're an atheist, you're dead. You become a shopaholic. You become a partier. You become like, I was a good kid when I was in high school. Like, I was a good person. I wasn't always like, I didn't, like, when I say I used to be a bad, I wasn't in high school. In high school, I was a good girl. I never drank or did anything bad. We had like, I drank on prom night, which is like a couple coolers. And then I had drank once or twice with my parents because they drank, but just socially. But I didn't really get into drinking actually even after college. I went to parties in college. Obviously, I did drink, like I went to parties, but it wasn't a problem until like 20s. And then you're just like, because you fall fully into atheism, and then going to school in journalism and getting further deeply into atheism, because I still believed in God, even though my family didn't, until grade 12. And then grade 12 hit, and this is where I learned manifestation, because I used to believe in God and please give me this, please, why, please. But in grade 12, I was like, okay, enough, God. I guess my parents are right. You don't exist. And I was like, I'll do it myself. And I did go get everything I wanted. I got way more friends. I got a boyfriend. I started getting prettier. I started looking better. I started dressing better. Because I got a job, so I could afford to. I mean, underneath, I've always been fine looking, but like, you need to be able to afford stuff to look good, So I was able to actually do all that stuff once I let go of God. And that was pure manifestation, which is how I know the power of bringing them together now, because you cannot just go, please, God, but why? When? I want. You can't do that. But I learned many years later, oh, that's combining manifestation and the divine, because just manifesting without God, that's evil. That's evil. I wasn't really using it for evil, but I was using it for self-aggrandizing. And that is evil. Drop StreamYard link to join the stream. Drop StreamYard link to join the stream. I don't know what that means for you, Samantha. Samantha. I like that name. My sister's name's Samantha. I'm going to start calling her Samantha now. Okay, but I forgot what I was saying. Definitely feel free to ask me questions, though. I don't know what you're saying there, but ask me something about my StreamYard thing. I hope it's working. If not, I apologize. But ask me questions and I will answer them, especially related to this topic. I can answer anything metaphysical, though, probably, or at least try. I will never answer something I don't know. I'm not one of those people, and I don't mind saying I don't know at all, because I'm very confident in everything I do know. So let's return back to where we were. So always with the living, never with the ego dead self, but you can learn to combine them. And that's where you're in your real power, when you have both together. 60. He saw a Samaritan carrying a lamb and going to Judea. He said to his disciples, that person around the lamb. They said to him, so that he may kill it and eat it. He said to them, he will not eat it while it is alive, but only after he has killed it and it has become a carcass. Yeah, there's a lot. We're really in a carcass theme today, eh? There's lots of carcass discussions. I'm not going to overly pretend to know what that one means. It's raining really heavy right now. I love that sound. So he's carrying the lamb, this person around. So the lamb is always said to represent Jesus in innocence and purity, so that they may kill and eat it. He will not eat it while it is alive. Okay, well, I don't know. I can't pull anything out that, because there is things of eating people while they're alive. So it's not like they were pretending to know you can't eat things when they're alive, unless he's saying you must eat them when they're only dead. Oh, we didn't finish. They said otherwise he can't do it. He said to them, so also with you seek for yourself a place for rest, or you might become a carcass and be eaten. Okay, good. Well, that makes more sense. So rest, usually means stillness and meditation, especially like when mentioned here, stillness and meditation in rest or you will die. So the theme here, carcass, they usually say carcass when somebody's in an ego state. So find your place of rest, meditation. That is how you bring that God spark alive. And then that's how I found it. If you can find it any other way, good. I found it in meditation, but I'm all about not having to meditate to be a spiritual person, because that is its own form of spiritual aggrandizing. Those people that I meditated for 6 hours today, you are not so spiritual as me. Okay, now do something to trip that person up. Like, do they have kids? Do they have a life? Like a real people life? You're going to have things that trip you up. Buddhism was never meant, when it was brought to the people, to make them exit and leave life, although it did get taken and used that way. And that's where Buddhism is, because every teaching was not perfect. If it was perfect, we would be perfect. We would have been like, that's perfect, I'm going to do that. And we would just already be enlightened, but we're not, because things of Buddhism and super separating into constant meditation and being a monk in the mountains, that's great. But now go try taking care of your children and not getting angry, because if you're not able to go meditate, how are you going to calm yourself down? You need to learn to facilitate the God spark within in your day-to-day life. So you need to learn to tap into that space, which deep breathing is going to do it. If you pull in your breath, it'll bring you back into center, and then you can find the God spark. And then the more you work at that God spark muscle, the more I can turn on instantly. Bam, on. Like, I can just turn it on. So if I notice I'm getting in especially with my daughter, because, she likes to argue, she's a Gemini. Then the 6-year-old can't talk, but the 3-year-old is finally starting to Sassertons himself. That's what I call them, Sassertons. And it's like, him though, because he's 3 and it's so cute. It's like, oh, but like she's 7, she's almost 8, so it's less cute. Although I love when she says like really smart things, and I'm very good with arguing. I let them argue. I encourage argument. I encourage not rudeness, but debate. And this is a side point that I recommend any parent doing. And if your children should learn how to defend themselves. Your children should be allowed to say their truth. And if her arguing of why she should or shouldn't do something actually is a good point, I'm like, okay, thank you for making that point. I have heard you and I honor you. Yes, you can do what you want. Your thing wins. And it's not spoiling, because I make clear to her, and if I am spoiling, I'd rather spoil than be the other way, but I make clear to her that I have heard your valid opinion. Thank you for very clearly stating it to me. And I'll say the opposite if she just all of a sudden, which she's getting way better at, but she'll just, so, like girls scream, cry, whatever. And I won't listen then. I won't listen. I'm not rude, but I try not to be. This is finding that God spark. And then you can just wait out the screaming and be like, okay, carry on. I shall talk to you when you're finished. And I stay right there. I don't believe in isolation. I'll stay right there. I'll even hold her while she screams and cries about how mean and evil I am. And then I'll be like, okay, do you have something to say about this that supersedes what I'm saying? Like, are you more wise than me in this matter? No? Okay, well, we're going to do it this way then. Or you are more wise. Usually I am. Sometimes she's very smart. So she's very smart. So honestly, she wins. She wins a lot. She usually ends up getting her way. So this is why people say I spoil her. But I allowed her to intelligently bring to me why she should win. And she does, usually, not always, but if she makes an intelligent argument, she's allowed winning. Okay, so 61. Jesus said, 2 will recline on a couch, 1 will die, 1 will live. Salome said, who are you, mister? You have climbed onto my couch and eaten from my table as if you are from someone. Jesus said to her, I am the one who comes from from what is whole. I was granted from the things of my Father. I am your disciple. For this reason, I say, if one is whole, one will be filled with light, but if one is divided, one will be filled with darkness. Yes, and I have been there as well. One is whole within God, and the even divided thing can go back, because I spent many years, even when learning metaphysics, many years still not believing in God. Like I believe, or the soul. And then there was times when I believed in the God, but not the soul, and our own immortality. And knowing about your own immortality is a power key here for you to truly embody this. It's impossible to learn metaphysics and embody it if you still don't believe in the soul. So this would be speaking to those people that have turned to true atheism. When you are of the soul, then you can actually be united with the divine, and then you can, like almost like a council of the self, take in the ego's concerns and wants, and all, like I was just talking about discussing with my daughter. You can discuss with your ego, but as a house undivided, with the soul as the supreme leader, because you will have many archetypes, like planetary influences, all these things that will pull you apart. So even if you're not an atheist that's completely separated from God, you can also be just a house divided within yourself and having all these different parts. Like, but you need to learn to honor them. And this is why I preach and talk about things like human design now, because I'm fairly newish to human design, but not astrology. It's funny, but I'm not new to astrology. I'm not new to the I Ching. I'm not new to Kabbalah or the Vedas, which is what human design uses. So it takes all those things I already knew and lays it out in a perfect package that goes, this is who you are. And it's so extremely accurate that you can use that to undivide the house. Knowing thyself is so powerful in one of our ultimate goals, because when you know the self, you can be the self. You can learn and find who the leader is, because even within yourself, you need to have a defining person that's the leader. And when there's a leader, that's going to make you undivided, and the leader is the soul. But you want to learn and find, and the soul is the stillness. And then you want to find the goals within yourself that are the most soul led. So for me, it's doing this. I had other things I used to want to do, but this is the only thing that has ever brought me true fulfillment. Like true, I am doing something for the world, but more importantly, to myself. I It's just all lined up, and everybody has their own thing that's going to be that. Maybe you're an artist, maybe you're my one sister is a clerk at a hospital, and she loves it, and she's super fulfilled, and she's super into holistics, and I want to bring her on to talk holistics, because she is she is a nutritionist pretty much, and I've been bugging her about going to school for it, but she actually tells me, like, no, like, I'm fulfilled. It works perfect for her children, because she has kids too, and it works perfect for that. She loves the hours, she loves the people, she even loves what she does. She loves the flexibility. They're very nice, and she can take time off if she needs. Like, so she is fulfilled in her job. Like, she is a person that has a normal 9 to 5 job, literally, or and she's fulfilled with that job. Like, that would, I no. Oh man, I was the person, I had like 20 jobs back when I used to work real people jobs, because ugh, you could not keep me there for long. I would start and I'd be like a superstar. Literally, I would always get promoted into management positions, but I would barely stay a year and a half in each position. I stayed at the Spectator because I worked at the Hamilton Spectator for a while. Oh, I just gave up where I live close to, but that was the butthole city I lived in for 12 years. But I worked there for almost 3 years, but in 2 different positions, because, well, it counted almost like 2 different jobs. So I worked about a year and a half in each, but I could say I worked there for 3 years, which is like record breaking for me, because I can't. And I just can't. And I eventually quit that job, and I was off for a year. Actually, I got fired because I was calling in sick so much, because I hate working in an office, and I was 9 to 5, and I was working in accounting, and I wasn't bad at it, I was good at it, but it's soulless accounting. But I liked that it was the newspaper, and I went to school for journalism, even though I wasn't being a journalist, I was being an accountant. Like, barf, it was awful. So it was the best thing ever. And getting fired is when I went and had my awakening, official awakening. I'd been awakening for a long time, but I was too busy working and paying bills and all this stuff to give it the time it needed. Where when I had that year off, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I don't know in where you live, but in Canada, if you've worked a long enough time, which I did, I had saved up a good amount of unemployment. So I considered it well deserved. And I took that year off, and yeah, here we are. Like, thanks to that year off. So if you ever get fired, it could be the best thing that ever happens to you in your whole life. It was amazing, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't gotten fired. So thank you for firing me. For real. I almost said her name. She has a really cool name, but I don't want to say her name in case she sees this. Okay. So next we have 62. Jesus said, I disclose my mysteries to those who are worthy worthy of my mysteries. Now, this is awesome. And this is an amazing conspiracy of Jesus. And that is that he knew way more than he taught us. He knew way more than he taught us, but he, like what he would teach the layman on the Sermon of the Mount, that was nothing. Like Mount Sinai, that whole thing, that's nothing. His parables, those are great. But like, if you actually utilize and learn them, it's like, okay, that's kindergarten. Where's grade one? This is why I love metaphysics and learning metaphysics, because that is the universe. Like, we are all God and the energy body and the toroidal fields, and how you can actually harness and use your energy, and the chakras and the portals we all have, and just everything that we can do within said metaphysics. Now, yes, if you know metaphysics and you're evil, you're going to do bad things. Like, this is what the powers that be do. They utilize this and they know it. But we're all manifesting generators in that regard. That's a human design term. But we are all, like, our collective consciousness power is the collective whole. So the bigger the power, the bigger the power. This is why they put things in the news to make us fear. Because when we're in fear, one, we're no good at projecting and creating the good timelines, the good utopian-ish heading timelines that we would want to be in. If you knew about them, they are amazing. And there's variations. You can go full back into the forest, or I'm kind of heading middle ground, technology forest, green buildings, we'll see. But you need your own mental mind power on that. No, they want us just on the negative ones. Climate change, climate. Rah, rah, rah. The planet's always changing its climate. That's what she, a living being, does. They act like she's this dead. Talk about all the carcass talk we've been talking about. That right there. Being an atheist. This is one thing. I woke up to Mother Earth before actual God, before the Father. I woke up to the Mother. It was obvious. And I got into Wiccan first. Everybody does. Feels like, because even here the only in-person stuff is Wiccan, and some people get into that and stay there. Wiccan is great, but that maybe Wiccan's grade one, but you still want to keep going further. But the fact that the mother is alive, like the mother, this would really help me through my own mother, because being a Taurus of the earth, I can extra feel the mother of earth. She loves us. She's deeply, deeply in love with us. We are her children as well as her own body. She's not going to hurt us on purpose. And you shaming her all the time for her earthquakes and stuff, that's just part of her own ascension process. And maybe stop shaming her for it. And if you live in a tornado or an earthquake zone or something like that, leave. Like, I feel like I'm kind of blessed. I whine about Canada constantly because boo, it does. But we don't have earthquakes. We don't have tornadoes. We get mini tornadoes that really don't do anything except maybe knock down a bad shed. I don't know, like, we have nothing that goes wrong here except snow. And even the area of Canada I live almost in America. I'm in the part of Canada. I do live in America, technically. I'm in the little Wang area that comes into America. So it's funny because places like Minnesota are higher up into the north than I am. So I'm lucky. I'm right in all the Great Lakes. So it's warmer for me. But I grew up higher north, though. I'm from more north, and I'm from the other side of Toronto. Like, everything like around here exists in Toronto being the black hole that we all orbit around, or the sun that we all orbit around. And I used to live on the other side. It was much more snow. When snow came, it was there all winter. It was just, ugh. And you stop existing in the winter. So it's like a real boohoo problem. But it's better than dying, right? So if you live in an earthquake zone, if you live, and everyone's like, easier said than done. In today's world, you can get it done. And you don't need a lot of money. If you're actually scared of dying in an earthquake, leave. This is what they say, like California. California seems like the root of all evil. Deserts are where a lot of evil happen, and they are very powerfully magic, but usually they utilize powerful evil magic for whatever reason. I think God's in water. God is the most apparent and the most obviously alive in water, although everything's God. But when you don't have water in that desert, you're going to have even less God. Now, LA was a desert. And I don't know, what's it called? China something, China Street. It's with Jack Nicholson, but it actually shows the very true story of how LA like very evilly stole water from Northern California to bring it into LA so that LA could exist as the city it is today. And it was already a growing city that didn't have enough water because you built a city in a desert. Why? I feel like there's definite nefarious purposes there. I don't know. I could be wrong. It is the seat of all evil. So people talk about how California is going to be washed away in the water or cracked up in an earthquake because California is supposed to have a massive earthquake that's going to kill tens of thousands. Not all prophecies come true, though. A lot do. And that prophecy came from a source where a lot of their prophecies did come true. And the California earthquake prophecy is in multiple prophecies. So if you live in California and you don't want to die in an earthquake, perhaps leave. There's already lots of people doing it, moving to Texas, probably because they talk about the wokeism, but it's possibly because they're getting and Florida they're going to. They're probably getting psychological psychic impulses to just go, to just move. Like how I moved here, that was like a push. When we came, I was like, we have to go buy a house right now. I just knew it. And we did. And everything unfolded like for the betterment at that point. And the housing market got even worse. We didn't buy in the good part. We bought in a bad part, but it got only worse after. My husband kept wanting to wait until it was better because in our early 20s, when it was too early to buy a house, we oh, my son's awake, I'm gonna have to go. We couldn't afford, obviously, our early 20s. And then when we started to get to the point of being able to afford a house, the housing market was insane. And my husband kept waiting year after year after year. We're gonna wait till it gets better. And I was finally like, man, it's not going to get better. We need to buy now. And we did, and it did. It kept going up and up and up and up. It still might be going up. It's Canada. America whines about it too, but I look at the housing prices and it's not the same. So we'll see. If you're in a danger zone, definitely leave because things might be coming to that are going to shake off the earth. And we will end it here on this more darkening note because my little son is awake now and he wants his mummy. But thank you for tuning into Transcending Ascension. And I will see you next time for our metaphysical discussions. Goodbye for now.